Islam. Islam 101.
Bismillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. Welcome to Islam 101, a new episode of a program in which we're trying to deal with some of the basic tenets and precepts of the religion of Al-Islam, to give to the viewing audience as well as to our respected panel here an overall basic view of some of the more vital and important aspects of the religion of Al-Islam, based upon the Quran and based upon the authentic Sunnah and based upon the understanding that the companions of Rasulullah had of those two sources, as well as the scholars of Al-Islam. In one of our previous episodes, we began to deal with the legislative bodies in Al-Islam, the sources that make things permissible or impermissible in the religion of Al-Islam. Now we're going to start to deal with some of the practical, real aspects of some forms of worship in Al-Islam, some of the everyday aspects of worship that every Muslim has to know about, he has to come to know about. Being a Muslim for the last 20 years, I've come to know that not everyone knows some of these basic issues in the religion of Al-Islam. So we cannot take it for granted. I would think that everyone knows about how a person should pray. For an example, if you were to ask a person, show me how to pray, he may show you how to pray, but his prayer is not like the prayer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who prayed in front of the people at least 5 times every day for 13 years, every single day. So his salat or his prayer has been defined for us, explained for us in perfect detail. And yet the vast majority of Muslims will not be able to show you the exact prayer and the mechanics of the prayer of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So therefore, we're not going to take it for granted that Muslims know. And then we have people who are tuning into our program who are not Muslims. And it is a joy to have you here, because what we want to do is we want to do away with many of the misconceptions and the myths that people have. The enemies of Al-Islam and the mass media especially, they want to make people think that Muslims are a group of crazy people, or they want to make people think that Al-Islam is a religion that is built upon culture. So now this is a golden opportunity for us to come to you to do the best that we can possibly do in terms of having you to take it from the horse's mouth, as they say. As they say. We want to give you a true, clear, distinct example and interpretation and meaning of what the religion of Al-Islam is saying. So today we're going to deal with the fiqh of al-wudu. The fiqh of al-wudu. And al-wudu and fiqh means the understanding and the correct way of performing the ablution in Al-Islam. Whenever the Muslim wants to pray, the salat, the prayer, it has some prerequisites, a number of them. We don't have the time to get into them right now. Maybe we'll do a program on the prerequisites of the prayer. But one of the main prerequisites is that you have to become physically ready to pray and to stand before Allah. And this is something that is not unique to the religion of Al-Islam. This is mentioned in the Bible. It is mentioned in the Bible that the righteous prophets and the righteous people of the Bible, they used to wash up before they would go to God to pray. And this is not something, as I mentioned, that's new to the people. The prophets brought this concept. And there's no wonder that Al-Islam has put a lot of emphasis on purity. The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, at-tuhur shatrul iman. Cleanliness is half of faith. Cleanliness and being clean in your body and in your environment. So if you are a Muslim, or you're striving to be a Muslim, or you're even interested in Islam, then you should know that the religion of Islam has placed a lot of emphasis on purification. The Muslim, he keeps himself groomed. His nails are clean, his clothes are clean. We're not talking about a person who works in construction, or he works in a job where he has to get dirty. But when he comes out of that job, the first thing he wants to do is to take off of himself the dirt and the filth, to put himself in a position where he's walking around representing the religion, representing himself, representing his state of mind. If you go into a person's home and you find things are dirty, you find things are out of place, for the most part, you can get an indication of what's going on inside of that person's mind and his heart. So the Muslim is the one who is clean and he's organized to the best of his ability. Al-Islam said that purification is half of the faith. So that in and of itself is a clear proof of the significance of a tahara, or purification in the deen. As it relates to the prayer, one may argue and he says, well, Allah, God, He knows my heart. So why can't I just go to Allah directly and I just pray and just make supplication as I want? That person does have a point, because even Rasulullah, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily Allah, He doesn't look at your bodies. He doesn't look at your sexes, how tall you are, how short you are, how fat you are, what color you are. He doesn't look at that. Nor does Allah look at your money. Nor does He look at your lineage, who you came from. You're an Arab, non-Arab, European, African. He doesn't look at that. But Allah looks at your hearts and at the actions that you do. So the person may say, I want to pray and I just want to go directly to Allah, no intercessors, just me and Allah. Forget all of this peripheral issues like purification. We'll say in Al-Islam, you have a point there, but as we've been mentioning over and over again, the religion of Al-Islam, the way it's practiced, the way it's understood, is not based upon your understanding or my understanding. It's based upon following what Allah has mentioned in the Quran and what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has commanded and instructed in his authentic sunnah. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in the masjid, he was approached by a man. The man came and he prayed, but he didn't make the correct salat. He was very quick in his prayer. So after making a number of mistakes, he came to Rasulullah and the Prophet told him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you want to make the salat, then make a good wudu. If you want to make a prayer, then make a good wudu. He made it conditional. If you're going to pray, then you have to make wudu. In addition to that, Allah mentioned in the Quran, oh, you who believe, if you want to make the prayer, then wash your faces and wash your hands up to the elbows, and wipe over your heads and wash your feet up into the ankles. So Allah has given us this ayat, and the ayat is what the scholars call an ayat shurtiyah. إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ. If you stand for the prayer, if you want to pray, then you have to do this and you have to do that. So it is a condition and a prerequisite. So the wudu is something that has to be done. You have to have this purification before you can pray. If you don't have this purification, then it is not permissible to pray. So those are some of the examples and some of the issues as to why we make the wudu. We become purified in the ceremonial performance of the wudu, as it is well known, and we're going to show you how to do it, inshallah, in the next few minutes. Another very important aspect of the wudu is what Rasulullah described, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said about the believers. He said, لا يحافظ على الوضوء إلا مؤمن. لا يحافظ على الوضوء إلا مؤمن. No one takes care of, no one safeguards, no one is really taking care of being on and in wudu except the believer. So this issue of being pure and clean is an issue that's connected to a person's iman, because as we mentioned in our past episodes, the mu'min is the possessor of al-iman. So he said, only the believer is the one who takes care of the wudu. The Muslim who never prays, he never makes wudu. So he's not a believer because he doesn't pray. So if he doesn't pray, he's never going to make wudu. See the truthfulness of the ayah? لا يحافظ على الوضوء إلا مؤمن. The Muslim who doesn't pray, he may be a Muslim as long as he believes that the salat is an obligation. But he's not a mu'min because he doesn't pray. And since he doesn't pray, he doesn't take care of the wudu. وَصَدَقَ Rasulullah. Rasulullah spoke the truth. But the believer is the one who, because he has iman and because he believes, he has faith, he's going to keep the wudu. He's going to at least make the wudu whenever he has to pray, at least. And then he'll go the extra yard, the extra step. The real believer will make an extra effort. Whenever he wants to read the Quran, he will go into wudu. Whenever he wants to sit for the remembrance of Allah, go to a class, he wants to teach a class, he'll have wudu. Before going to bed at night, he'll have wudu. Because the Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, من توضأ ثم مات من ليلته مات على الفطرة. Whoever made the wudu and then he went to sleep and he died in his sleep, he has died on the fitrah. And we explained that the fitrah is the natural disposition that the person has been created to worship Allah and to know right from wrong and so forth and so on. So the wudu is very important and is connected not only to the ibadah, the worship of Allah, salah, and other than that, reading the Quran, dhikr of Allah, remembering Allah. It's important from that angle, but it's also important from the angle of al-iman, faith. The believer is the one who takes care of the wudu. The hadith of Jibril, he came and his clothes were exceedingly white and his hair was exceedingly black. He was well groomed. This is the way of the believer. This is the way of the Muslim. This is the way of the one who has iman with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So before we show you and illustrate to you the proper way of making the wudu, we want to remind you, we want to remind every Muslim especially that the wudu of al-Islam is a form of worship in and of itself. Just to make wudu right now for no reason is worship. That is highly regarded by Allah Azza wa Jal, and it has a place that is high in the religion. But it also has something to do with the aqidah, with the ideology of being a believer. The believer is the one who takes care of the wudu. The believer or the Muslim who doesn't take care of the wudu, the one who you see him in the street, you know, do you ever ask yourself, some of the crazy people who walk around like in the streets of New York City and Chicago, some of the biggest cities in America, you may see a guy, his hair is disheveled. He hasn't combed his hair in months, in a year. You can see the dirt, the grime, and the grit in his clothes and on his body. You see those people sitting on the corners. You see them walking around and they're talking to themselves. Many crazy people on the street, derelicts, wherever you go, South Africa, wherever you go, they're walking around talking to themselves. They're filthy. Part of that is because he's far away from iman. And when you take off the wudu and the purification, you open up the door for the evil spirits to come in. The jinn, and we talked about the jinn. You open up the door for allowing yourself to become possessed even, because the jinn and the evil spirits, they like dirt and filth. So Al-Islam has given us a built-in mechanism to protect us from those things that are evil and dirty and filthy, and that is al-wudu in and of itself. You have to bathe at least, you have to clean yourself at least 5 times every single day. So what is the wudu of al-Islam? As we mentioned in the ayat of Surah Al-Ma'idah, the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is what I'm going to illustrate to you, inshallah, when we come back from the break, and we'll use the whole second half of this particular episode to show you the actual physical way and the mechanics of making the wudu, which is one of the signs of a person's faith, his iman in Allah. And we ask Allah and we pray to Him and we ask Him to make us of those people who have al-iman. See you when we get back.
Islam 101.
In your standpoint of view, are there specific or certain criteria to choose your spouse or a partner, to marry or not to marry? Maybe that's the question. Do we revise the quality of performance of our treatment between the family members as fathers or mothers? As they say usually, it's not what you say, it's how would you say it. Wouldn't you like to be a good storyteller for your kids? Neurobiologically speaking, child abuse and emotional trauma causes scars in the brain of the child, and this might be not easily healing. What's the exact job description of a father? Is it clothing, payments, and feeding, or other important things? Well, I think the job description of a father is merely giving him love and care, self-confidence, giving him sense of security, and checking for the points of strengths to strengthen them. What about potty training and its planning? Oh yeah, actually, it's a state, it's a condition. Fatherhood is not a body or a person, it's a state. Are you a good or skillful designer for the policy and the long-term plans of the life of your kids? Join us every Wednesday for family issues.
Islam 101.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. As it relates to the physical, mechanical way of performing the correct wudu of the Prophet ﷺ, before even showing you about this wudu, we just want to share with you how the companions used to be concerning showing other people the importance of the wudu and making it properly. And Imam Ibn Asakir, in his book Tarikh Damashq, he brought a narration in which he narrated that Hassan and Hussein were at the station of al-wudu. And there was another elder gentleman who was making the wudu, but he wasn't making the wudu properly. So Hassan said to al-Hussein, upon seeing that the man was not making the wudu correctly, would you not show me how to make the wudu? I want to see how to make the wudu. And he knew full well that the man would also watch and thus learn how to make the wudu. So al-Hussein, being a young man, the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and loved by that particular man, proceeded to make the wudu of the sunnah, and the man watched attentively. So that was how we saw and we see the companions teaching people how to make the wudu. In addition to that, Imam Althahabi, he brought in his book Sir Alam al-Nubala the story about a man who was known during his time as Shaykh al-Tahara, Shaykh al-Tahara, the scholar or the Imam of purification. He used to also sit at the wudu station and he would wait until people came to see how people were performing the wudu. If he witnessed anyone performing the wudu in the incorrect way, he would grab them and say, let me show you the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He wasn't a scholar, but he knew how to make the wudu, and he saw a need and the importance of making sure that the Muslims made the wudu. Finally, Uthman ibn Affan radiyallahu anhu, he came out in front of the Muslim community and he was the Khalifa. He had water brought to him and he gathered the Muslims together and he said, I'm going to show you the wudu of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he had a man pour him the water and he went through the wudu step by step. And then he said, I heard the Prophet say, whoever makes wudu the way that I just made wudu, the 7 doors of Jannah will be open. The 7 doors of paradise will be open. He can enter into any door that he wants to enter into. So that goes to show again, what I'm about to do in showing you physically and literally how the wudu is performed, it is something that the righteous predecessors were keen on making sure people saw and witnessed. So this is the illustration of the wudu of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is Islam 101, so we're just going to do the basic aspects of it. We're not going to get into the deep details. The very first thing is obviously you have to have the intent. And the intent is already in your heart. You don't come and you say, I intend to perform wudu and all of that. That is an innovation, so stay away from it. The fact that you're before the sink or you have water and you're about to perform the wudu, that's your intent. It's already known that you're about to make wudu because that is your niyyah. But make sure you take care of having a clear niyyah inside of your heart. The second thing is, you must say Bismillah. This is extremely important. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, La wudu'a liman lam yusammillah. There's no wudu for the one who didn't say Bismillah. So your wudu will not be complete. It will not be the perfect wudu if you do not say Bismillah. So you should say Bismillah. Even if it is at the wudu stall. Some people are a bit reluctant because the bathroom and so forth and so on. Don't worry about that. You say Bismillah. After saying Bismillah, you're going to start with your right hand. So you take the water and you wash your right hand 3 times. And be sure to get between the fingers. Because Rasulullah said, cleaning between the fingers and the toes is from the fitrah. That's one of the examples of the purity and the importance of purification in Islam. So you're going to wash the right hand 3 times and between the fingers. And then you're going to wash the left hand 3 times and you're going to go between the fingers. And then you're going to take a handful of water. And you can do one of 2 things. You can take the water and put it in your mouth and your nose simultaneously and blow out. And you do that 3 times. Or you can just take the water and put it in your mouth and gargle and spit it out 3 times. That's also from the fitrah. So you're either going to take the water and put it in the nose simultaneously. In the mouth, through the nose, blow it out. Or you're going to take the water, put it in your mouth, gargle, spit it out, and you do that 3 times. And then you put the water in your nose 3 times. Concerning this issue of the nose, for those of you who are learning the wudu for the very first time, a new Muslim, a revert Muslim, in order to really remember the order of things, usually when you put the water in your nose, sometimes you take too much water in your nose and there's that sensation that you get from bringing the water in your nose, which lets you know the next thing that you do is you wash the face, which will give you some relief if you put the water in your nose. That's just to help you remember the sequential order. So you're going to take the water and you're going to put it on your face, and you're going to wash all of your face. It is not needed. It is not necessary that you put the water all through your beard. And you should have a beard, but it is not necessary. That is not necessarily the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you're going to put the water on your face 3 times. After that, you're going to wash your hand or your arm up past the elbow. Make sure that you go past the elbow. You don't have to go to the middle of the arm. You don't have to go to the top of the arm where the shoulder is, because that has been reported on some of the companions. One of the companions of Rasulullah used to do that, and someone may come and say, since the companion did it, I have to do it? No, you have to do what Rasulullah did, what Allah commanded him to do in the Quran. So you're going to take the water and you're going to go up past the elbow, and make sure you go past the elbow 3 times. And then you do the same thing with the left hand, all the way past the elbow 3 times. After that, you're going to put water on your hand. You're going to get your hands wet again, and then you're going to take the water and go from the top of your head to the base of your neck, or what is called the nape of the neck. It is not the sunnah to do your neck. That is an innovation. Stay away from that. Do not do your neck. Just go from the beginning of your forehead, all of the head, to the nape of the neck, and then you come back again. And without getting any new water, you're going to put your fingers inside, these fingers right here, the fingers that you point with, you're going to put them inside of your ear, and you're going to go around, and then you take the thumb on the outside of your ear, and you go up and down, and that is cleaning the head and the ears with the same water, because the Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, al-udhanan min al-ras. The 2 ears are from the head. They are one and the same in this particular issue. So you take the water and you go back to the nape of the neck, you come back up with the same water, you do your ears inside and out. After that, you're going to either put your foot in the sink or take the water and you're going to pour the water on your foot, and you're going to get all of the foot wet from the ankle bone, and you're going to wipe between the toes, as we mentioned, because that is from the sunnah. As it relates to the wudu, it is very important that you are sure that all of the body parts that you are supposed to wash, they are actually touched by the water. There was a companion who made the wudu, and he left a small portion of his heel that was untouched. It was still dry. He came into the masjid. Rasulullah saw, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that his ankle bone or his heel had a part that was the size of what we would say is a quarter in America. It was like the circle you can make with your thumb and your index finger. This man, he didn't pass the water over that part of the body. The Prophet told him, sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, waylun lil aqab min an-nar. Woe unto the ankle bones from the hellfire. One of the benefits of the wudu is the parts of the body that you touch in the wudu. If a person has to go to the hellfire, he won't have that part of his body burnt. So we understand that is one benefit. Another benefit of getting all of the parts of the body touched is the fact that it is the complete and it is the exact wudu. This wudu is the same for men and is the same for women. This is the wudu that you make for the salat, and this is the wudu that you make to go around to make the tawaf or the circumambulation at the Kaaba. This is the wudu that you make for any form of worship that you want to do in Al-Islam. This is the wudu. This is the wudu of Al-Islam, the one that we just mentioned. So we're going to stop here, and we're going to ask our panel here if anyone has any question concerning the wudu, how to make it, anything concerning, anything about it, feel free to ask. Nick.
Well, I have to ask you a question about, there are some times in desert, and the water for them are of great value. How should they do their wudu, their purification?
That's a good question, Nick. Concerning the Arabs during that time, they used to be in the desert, and even now, people are still in the desert, or they may find themselves in places where the water is sparse. There's a lack of water. So what should be done? There are 2 things that can be done in this case. Number 1, if there's not enough water to drink and to cook with and to use for your life, then it's permissible to make a tayammum. It's permissible to make a tayammum, and that is the process of hitting the earth and washing your hands with it. Like that, you hit the earth twice, or you can hit the wall where there's dust, you can hit the floor, but where there's dirt, real dirt or sand, that's the best thing. You hit it 2 times, you wash your hands like this, and then you wash your face, and then that is the tayammum. That's if you don't have water or you have only enough water to drink or to live on. The second thing that they can do is they can make the wudu with the water, but they only have to do, or they can only do every body part 1 time to save the water, to preserve the water. And another thing concerning doing it once, doing it twice, or doing it 3 times, what many people don't know is from the sunnah, you can wipe your head 3 times. That's from the sunnah and it's authentic. And Imam al-Nawawi has a book called Kitab al-Tahara. And in that book, he brings all of those authentic narrations that the Prophet ﷺ allowed for the head. You take the water, you do it the way I showed you, and you can do new water 3 times. That's from the sunnah. So you should try whenever you find that the sunnah did, the Prophet did a particular thing this way or that way or this way. In order for us to be from the people of the sunnah, we should also try to do things differently. So you can do it once, you can do it twice, you can do it 3 times. But if it's an issue of losing out on the water, then the person can avoid using his water altogether and just do a tayammum, because one of the favors of Allah upon this ummah is that He has made the earth a masjid and He has made the earth a purifier. So we can pray anywhere on the earth, anywhere, except in the corral of the camels, except in the bathroom, except in the graveyard, except in the place where there's najasa or dirt and filth. Those are the only places that we can't pray. But we can pray anywhere else. And also, the earth is a purifier for us. So you can take the earth and make tayammum. You can take the dirt of the earth and do your hands. Some of the scholars say you could do your hands up to the elbows if that's what you choose to do, and you do your face, and then you could pray. The only difference is, if you make a tayammum, you have to make tayammum for the next prayer and the next prayer. You cannot hold on to the tayammum when the new salah comes. So this is the wudu in al-Islam, the illustration, the actual illustration of the wudu. And we wanted to bring that to your attention and to show you, because of its significance, if a person doesn't have the proper wudu, then his salat is going to be affected. As Rasulullah told the people, woe unto the ankle bones, the heels from the hellfire. So we're going to bring this session to a close, and we look forward to seeing you again, inshallah, in some of our future segments. Take care, and may Allah protect and guide all of us.
Islam. Islam. Islam 101.